Hello there. Um, this is the Variant guy here, and today I'm talking about the Battle of Five Armies from Armies games. And this is not a review. This is today I'm talking about some overall strategic options for both the free people player and the shadow player, and also some variants, some possible variants, if you want to tweak the game towards one side or the other. I've seen there are some discussion about whether this game is balanced or not towards the three people players or three people's player or the shadow player, and I use it to think it to agree it favored the an experienced three people's player. Then I changed sides and I started believing the game favored an aggressive shadow player, and today I believe it's 50-50. So there is a there is a really good reason uh, people believe the game favors the free people players is that the pressure is on the shadow player. There are some overall aspects of that I might elucidate what I mean by that. Um, First, the game both sides have access to both event cards and story cards. On this deck here, you'll see it's something like 50% of those cards deal with movement one way or the other. You see this deck here, the story deck for the shadow player, also has quite a very good amount of a decent amount of uh, movement cards, cards that deal with movement. You see, this is not true. This is not like that with the story cards for the free people player. You see, it's easier for the free people player to master than it is for the shadow player. And you see, this is also true with dice. It's easier overall for the free people player to master, and it's easier for the shadow player to move and attack. Um, Overall, the free people player dice is this dice here is arguably better or easier to use than this dice here. Um, what this means is you should exploit you should use what's strong with what your faction is already good at, and instead of trying to play the opposite game. What I mean by that, if you as the shadow player starts to muster and keeps mustering troops and gathering your troops, the free people's player is going to do the same, and it's likely the shadow player will lose the game. So, I this is the board. I hope you can all see most of it, at least. Mhm. Yeah, that's good. So, first, how many generals the free people player should activate? Usually three, at least on the first round. Um, uh, from then on, it quite depends on the cards and the situation of the boards and all that stuff. Um, this is one of the first things the free people player we do every round. And the other thing you do at the beginning of each round is you draw cards. These cards should should help you to determine where you will place those leadership tokens. Uh, so if you, as the free people player, you activated three generals, you will have three uh, leadership tokens. I'm using those cute stones here. My girlfriend bought for me. So and I've seen it all. I've seen the classic, which is one in Ruins of Dale, one in Camp, and one in the Eastern Spurs, just in case the Shadow player attacks any of those, and it will happen. I've also seen the some really out of the box stuff, like one leadership talking with this uh, dwarf veterans here, uh, here in the north, with those another one with those two folks on the eastern ford, and another one with the elves here in lower slopes. The idea being, uh, you have more flexibility to move your arms. Both can work, both can may not, but usually what what I see people doing the most is one nowadays is one with this dwarf in the north, one in camp, and the other one in either Eastern Spur or Ruins of Dale. So none of them is really better. They all they all can work. Which general should you activate? This is also up to you. Anything you do will be great. Overall, on the first turn, um, all those you will be better if you activate the three guys, the three generals that will allow you to muster more troops, because you need those troops to defend yourself. So basically Dying Bard and Thranduil. I've seen Gandalf being brought to play in the being activated in the first round, concentrating and to do the blast in the second round to great effect. It works, not always, but it may work. Now, this is the easy part. If you're playing the Shadow player in the first turn and your opponent activated all three generals, when should you stop drawing those tiles? You see, the first one was I brought was a 2. This would be a good option uh, for from the second round on. On the first round, I'm taking my chances. Anything that's not a 1, the second one I got was a 3, which would be tragic. But now my chances for getting a 1 are bigger, and I got a 1. So when should you stop on the first round? If you are the Shadow player, you take your chances until you get a 1. Uh, you may a 2 is not a tragedy. A 3 is a tragedy. And mostly because you don't want a 2 is already bad, because Bilbo can be brought into play, and you don't want Bilbo messing up with you on the first round. Uh, Also, the first round is when your troops are better positioned to, as a shadow player, to smash any army the free people have. From the second round one on, things will be much worse, and they will get worse and worse and worse. So the time is now. What now? What should I? When should I? Oh, the leadership and bats. Where should I place my leadership tokens with the if when I'm the shadow player? I tend to there's just on the way I see it, there's just two things you may do. The first one is placing one leadership token on this guys here, the army with the warg and the great arc, and another one with this the central army here with the great arc and the two orcs right there. I've also seen sometimes this another leadership token being put into this army here. There are some, unless you have some great cards uh, like this Black Tide, for instance, where you move all shadow armies with leadership. If that's the case, I agree you can just place the fourth leadership token over there. Overall, I go with two. And then I place two bats here in the north and two bats here in the middle of the board. Why? Because you need to get to at least threaten Camp and Dale. Overall, you need from 4 to 5 moves to get there. Anything less than that, it's just silly. Um, uh, and if you don't have this access to those places, the the first round will be much easier for the free people player. So overall tactics for the free people player on the very first turn, it will the blue guys are going to basically flip tokens, place tokens, flip tokens, place tokens, flip tokens. What I've seen, for instance, uh, this is great for the for the blue guys. Uh, if, for instance, if you have something like this, as a free people player, well, you're lucky, and you'll be able to amass a very good army here in camp, and probably flip anything a bunch of stuff here on the board. Some elves here in Fallen Bridge or in Lower Slope. The 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 uh, the unit here on over here on at Dale, and probably the one in the Eastern Spurt as well. Uh, if you're the shadow player and you are seeing a situation like that, don't be discouraged. You should go broke and try to and go for the ale if you can anyway, because your army is better. Uh, what I usually what I'll do as the shadow player, and what I've seen it works uh, arguably most games is uh, you just take one of those army dice and bring these troops together. This army now has two leadership, two great orcs, and you may have 3 orcs or 2 orcs and a warg. Um, as our first move, another very important uh, thing to point out is that the shadow player will have a double turn, whether it's in the middle of the round or at the end. It's up to the free people's player, unfortunately. But you will have this double round, and you should use it well. Um, and for that, you want this round to be at the end of the round instead of at the beginning. This is another reason to push forward. So, say you have a role like that as the shadow player. You've used your first dice. Now, um, what this is a very good role for the shadow player. With your second army, you can just bring these guys here, all of them, to the point where those three wargs are, and just advance with this army. Now, I've seen some weird moves by the free people player before this happens. I've seen, for instance, these two guys here with a leadership token advancing towards this position here. And why would it do that? To stop this, to reinforce the eastern spurs and make it harder for this army here, the three wargs army, which I will call from now on the second army, to advance um freely towards this position here. So another thing I've used to see is this dwarf guy here being brought to Eastern Spurs, and you want that as the shadow player, you want that to happen most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. Um, but these are all stuff the free people player will do to defend the Eastern Spurs. And you should not aim, as a shadow player, you should not aim for the Eastern Spurs first. Uh, Preferably, you take Camp or Rings of Dale, whichever is weaker. It's going to be really hard for the free people player to defend, to have both positions fortified. Uh, on this, when this particular configuration happens, what I'll what I'll see is people from camp being brought to Ruins of Dale, and if you this is a very, it's strange, but it is a very uh, competent way to defend both positions. But it's more of an all or nothing thing, because if you lose those positions uh, for without inflicting quite a good amount of damage, you may, as the free people player, you may lose the game quicker than you would if you didn't do anything like that. I'm just saying. Um, so back to overall tactics. What I see usually the free people player doing is either waiting here with those guys or retreating to the hill over here to use Trundle's uh, arrows. Anyway, either way, you should aim as the shadow player to go north North is usually better than going south, than going through the eastern ford here, independently if those guys are here or not. It's an option. It's always going to be an option. But here you'll be thinking, if you get to this position here, on the front, in the front of this dwarf here, you'll be thinking an attack on both Ruins of Dale, Camp, or the Eastern Spur. Let me just change those tokens for what I got here. Say you have a configuration like that in Camp. It's a very good one. It has a dwarf, a dwarf veteran, two dwarf regulars, and one lakeman, and a lakeman. And say here I have another lakeman, and that was the three first dice from the free people player. If you can, as the shadow player, attack that position even with those armies, I believe you should do, and I'll tell you why. Every single time from the second round on, um, what an experienced free people player will do is, if the shadow player army is within range, what the free people player will activate Gandalf or Thranduil, probably Gandalf for that 5 hit stuff he does, and following that it will attack, and this can be massive. This can be devastating. You can, as when you're the shadow player, you cannot prevent this. The strike from Gandalf or Thranduil, but you can't make the free people player. You can leave the free people player without the option to attack. So if you can, you should just go here, and attack. What the free people player might do, and probably will do, is it's going to retreat from this position towards the front gate in hope of um, regaining this on a future round with the help of Gandalf or Thranduil. That's a very good reason why you should get to this position with at least one other die on your hands when you are the shadow player. That's why I favor the use of bat clouds to get there. Even if if you have a monster, of course, if you have a monster die and you have some great card like orcs from Gundabad, this is a really good card. You should, if you can, use something like that. Of course, you must plan ahead of your ahead. You should plan ahead, but it's just use it. It's great. But if not, what I tip what I have to what I'm arguing is you should use the Bat Cloud ability, because if you have your last die available, so for instance, let's go back a bit. Say you've used just the first die, that army die here. Um, then you've used the second and advance it here. Another thing. From this position here, uh, if you have a die like that, a character die, you should. It's probably a good option to just use it instead of anything else. To bring those guys here, because you're not going to have another chance. You're not likely to have another chance anytime soon, unless the free people player allows you to just get here and do nothing about it. Um, but even so, you shouldn't plan for that. So you're here, and with just two dice, with your third die, something like I don't remember. I believe it was like that. I showed you in the beginning. Then you finally place this army here, and now you still have, look, three die to help you. See, something like this. You notice that unless you have a card that allows you to attack with this one here, you'll be able to do just one attack. You'll be able to attack only once. That's not what you want. Um, you want at least the threat of a second attack, either following the retreating army, or maybe say you attack camp here, and the free people player just use the regroup card to retreat without um, without inflicting further much damage, and say that's one or two or something like that. You probably have one or two. Say you've been hit twice. Say it has Gandalf or Thranduil or something like that, and it managed to I don't know. Now you have three. Say you have three dudes here. If the free people player managed to do this amount of damage, um, it's probable. I can't tell you for sure. Obviously, it will happen from game to game. That this position here is not that fortified. Um, it may be, but whatever. Even let's say it has four dudes here like this. Even so, I'll tell you, if you can, you should. Yes, go here and attack this position. Why? Because the free people player will have two places to try to conquer on the next round, and it will not manage to do so before your turn, and this is a great opportunity for a bunch of stuff. But let's get back here. Say if this happened and that other army over there just got some damage as well, say 2 damage or something like that. Um, You see, as you have great arcs, even if you keep moving towards this army, um, it's likely you win the battle, and you have, let's say, you have a crappy army after that. These both armies are both decimated, and you have two great arcs and two something like that. But this army is no more, and Dine is no more. You've taken Dine away. If you manage to take Dine from the game, it doesn't matter how if you lose this army, you're in, you've done great. Also, the second army is probably following in pursuit, something like here. It depends on dice and cards, of course. Maybe here or maybe here. I don't know. But once you've got this army here, if you've taken camp, it doesn't matter if taking Ruins of Dale. You don't care about this. Just bring Bolg into play. Bolg will bring another whole entire army with him. Oh, there's too many guys here. Something like that. Okay. Um, say that's this situation at the end of the first round. It's a great board for the shadow player. You see, you have 2 points over there, and you probably bring Bolg and another army. Ruins of the Eel will not be able to hold on for long, and the Eastern Spur is easy to take after you've taken those both places, both those places. Um, what else can I can tell you about this game? There are some cards here in this deck that may change the way you play. Um, I remember one of these things people were saying was about the renewed this ability from with renewed force from Vogue here, like it's useless. Well, most of the time it is, but not always. One way I see this being used, and with great, say you have Bone to play here, with you bring another great arc, and look, two more arcs is here, and two more arcs is here, and what else have we here? Another arc, and my God, another arc. So the first use I see for the with renewed force, say you have this army anywhere on the board battling maybe the Eastern Spur or something like that. First, if you have this card here, mm, oh my God, I just lost the card. I lost the card. Oh my God. I'll just pause and look for it. So I'm back. Um, with renewed force. When should you play this? When should you use it? Say this army is no more, or perhaps it's somewhere like that. Um, say you've taken Ruins of Dale, and I don't know, I can't think of, or better still, say you've taken Fallen Bridge, say. just for argument's sake. You probably you lose Fallen Bridge. Oh, there's this other thing if you're the shadow player. Don't get attached to your settlements. You don't worry about it unless you're seeing I don't know, Eagles coming to play. But don't bother defending the stuff. Just keep conquering new settlements and attacking. You be great like that. So you can't have it all. Make the free people player lose dice moving moving troops around. That's not something. That's something you're better than the free people player. You're better at moving. The free people player is better at the free peoples are better at mustering troops, gathering troops. So um, you have something like that, or I don't know. You have say I've seen this happen a lot too. People moving people from the lower slopes, the free people player moving the units from lower slopes to Ruins of Dale. Why would he do something like that? Because sometimes both of your shadow armies are gathered in the north, or something like that. You're a smart free people player, you just move your troops to uh, help, I don't know, maybe something more drastic like that. And you leave something behind or something. With the help of say you have this you're the shadow player, you have this card right here, mustering for battle. It allows you to flip three tokens. You use with a dice. You use the with renewed force, right? And you do something like this: one here, another one there, another one here in the south, and another one here in the south. Um, then with a second die, you play this mustering for battle, and suddenly you have like this two orcs and I don't know another orc, whatever. Um, another orc. Say you have something like um, this. With with three dice, you've managed to bring an army. See, this war bandit allows you to place two orcs and two leadership and move with that army right into this position right here. This can be a headache of huge proportions for the free people player. So that's why you should not. It's not going to happen every game, but there are some configurations that will allow you to make great use of this of bugs um, with renewed force ability. Um, well, I don't know what else to say for now. You just tell me if you feel there's something like lacking. If I can help you with anything else. Kaka, if you're watching this, I hope this helps with your article. I'm sure it's going to be great. Um, and that's it, folks.